Sigurd Snake-in-the-Eye is instantly recognizable in sagas, yet contemporary history never clearly introduces him. His eye bears a serpent-shaped mark in literature, an intimate detail unsupported by 9th century observation. Around that image, medieval authors built a prince, a marriage, an inheritance, and a dynasty. Earlier annals offer several men named Sigfred or Sigurd, but none carries the identifying serpent. The problem is not choosing whether Sigurd was entirely real or entirely invented. It is determining which strands can be joined without pretending that matching names equal matching lives. Later Norse tradition gives the fullest portrait and therefore demands the closest examination. The Saga of Ragnar Lodbrok makes Sigurd a son of Ragnar and Aslog. His marvelous eye echoes the serpent imagery surrounding his legendary maternal grandfather, the dragon slayer Sigurd. That genealogy joins one heroic cycle to another through a visible sign on a child. The mark functions like inherited proof inside the story, where ancestry must become dramatically undeniable. Biology cannot evaluate a literary emblem composed centuries after the supposed lifetime. Hail of Ragnar's sons extends Sigurd's place within a band of conquering brothers. It distributes territories and marriages, transforming scattered memories into an ordered map of succession. Such order served storytelling, genealogy, and political imagination, but it was not a contemporary administrative record. The surviving manuscripts belong to Christian Icelandic literary culture, far removed from 9th century Danish courts. Their authors could preserve older names while rearranging relationships around familiar heroic patterns. Manuscript lateness does not make every detail false, but it changes what each detail can prove. Sigurd's serpent eye is secure as medieval tradition and insecure as physical biography. His parentage belongs to the same evidential level unless independent testimony confirms it. Contemporary Frankish annals describe fractured Danish politics with a different vocabulary and purpose. Their writers followed embassies, royal negotiations, border threats, and rival claimants affecting Carolingian interests. In 873, two Danish kings named Sigfred and Halfdan sent envoys to Louis the German. That Sigfred has sometimes been identified with Sigurd Snake-in-the-Eye. The resemblance is attractive because Sigfred and Sigurd can represent related Germanic name forms. His association with a Halfdan also recalls the brotherhood constructed in later Norse narratives. Yet neither shared name nor shared companion establishes identity across 3 centuries of transmission. Sigfred's Frankish appearance contains no Ragnar, Aslog, Eimark, or Saga genealogy. More than one Scandinavian elite could bear these common royal names during unstable succession. The annal records a diplomatic moment, not enough biographical detail for a secure match. Another Sigfred appears in the tangled Danish conflicts reported during the late 9th century. Sources describe competing kings, exiles, and interventions without supplying continuous personal dossiers. Modern reconstructions sometimes combine these appearances into one reign, while others keep them separate. Every combination alters Sigurd's proposed career, illustrating how identity can be built from editorial choices. The safest historical statement is that rulers called Sigfred operated in Denmark during the relevant period. One of them may stand behind the saga's Sigurd, although surviving evidence cannot decide. This uncertainty becomes clearer when the episode moves from names to family connections. Later tradition marries Sigurd to Blaeja, described as a daughter of the Northumbrian king Ella. Their child becomes Harthacnut, an ancestor within a Danish royal line. That union neatly converts conquest and vengeance into legitimate descent from both victor and defeated king. No contemporary English record documents Ella's daughter marrying a Scandinavian prince named Sigurd. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle records Ella's death during the Scandinavian capture of York in 867. It does not supply the romantic and genealogical aftermath found in later literature. Danish royal genealogy before the 10th century is particularly difficult to reconstruct from surviving sources. Later pedigrees often sought continuity where contemporary politics had been competitive and discontinuous. A marriage linking enemies could explain possession, reconcile memories, and dignify descendants simultaneously. Those narrative advantages give historians reasons to test the claim rather than reasons to accept it. Genealogy was not merely decoration in medieval writing. It established precedents, connected patrons to admired ancestors, and organized political time into family succession. The snake sign makes that genealogy visible before Sigurd performs any major deed. His body becomes a document inside the saga, even though it is not a document for modern history. This difference explains why the eye motif endured while his campaigns remained comparatively indistinct. Audiences remember an emblem more readily than an uncertain list of 9th century Danish rulers. The serpent also binds Sigurd to Aslog's legendary Völsung ancestry. In that tradition, her parents are the hero Sigurd and the Valkyrie Brynhild. Naming her son Sigurd repeats the ancestral hero, while the ocular pattern seals the repetition. The device is exceptionally economical literature. Name, body, and dynasty announce the same inheritance. An actual birthmark could have inspired it, but no independent source preserves that root. Other explanations treat the phrase as a poetic description of an eye's-colored ring. Some imagine a congenital feature, scar, or symbolic tattoo, none supported by identified remains. Retrospective diagnosis encounters the same obstacle as literal readings of Ivar's byname. Without a securely attributed body or early description, possibility should not masquerade as probability. Saga supplies the distinctive person, while history supplies a political environment containing possible namesakes. The environment itself is well-grounded. Danish kings negotiated with Carolingian rulers and competed for power. Scandinavian armies also transformed Northumbria, East Anglia, and other English kingdoms during Sigurd's presumed generation. What remains uncertain is whether one recoverable individual links those arenas exactly as later writers claimed. Coins cannot resolve the question because no accepted issue securely names Sigurd Snake-in-the-Eye. Runic inscriptions likewise provide no contemporary statement of his parentage or unusual eye. Archaeology reveals elite halls, fortified places, ships, and exchange supporting Danish rulership. Material context can show how a prince lived without identifying this particular saga prince. Even royal burials are hazardous evidence when inscriptions and uninterrupted provenance are absent. Rich objects indicate costly commemoration, not automatically a famous name from literature. The historical search must therefore remain textual, comparative, and attentive to each author's purpose. Frankish annalists wrote close to the diplomatic events, but observed Scandinavia from outside. They selected developments relevant to emperors, borders, tribute, and Christian political order. Icelandic saga authors wrote much later but understood traditions of kinship and heroic narration from within Norse culture. Neither perspective provides a neutral camera, and their different strengths cannot simply be averaged. Agreement on a name may preserve genuine memory without validating the surrounding saga biography. Disagreement or silence may reflect source priorities rather than proving that no such man existed. Sigurd may derive from a historical ruler whose identity blurred as dynastic memory traveled. He may combine attributes from several Sigfreds with motifs borrowed from the Völsung cycle. Alternatively, a genuine family tradition may lie beneath literary elaboration that can no longer be separated. Each model explains part of the evidence, and none currently controls all of it. The decisive discovery would be a contemporary inscription or text joining name, kinship, and distinctive epithet. A securely dated document calling a Sigurd son of Ragnar would sharply narrow the debate. An eye motif alone would remain ambiguous because serpent designs were widely meaningful in Scandinavian art. Until such evidence appears, the later narrative must be read for what it demonstrably accomplishes. Fashion's conquest into family history and uncertainty into inherited legitimacy. Ella's remembered defeat becomes a marriage connection rather than an isolated political collapse. Aslog's heroic ancestry passes through Sigurd toward rulers who could claim a magnificent past. The prince's body certifies descent in a world where written charters cannot perform that task. History preserves instead a fragmented Danish landscape of envoys, rivals, and intermittent names. Placing those records beside the saga produces neither simple confirmation nor wholesale dismissal. It reveals how a plausible 9th century name became the anchor for a highly structured medieval identity. Securely known Sigfreds show that the saga did not invent every element from emptiness. The missing links prevent us from selecting one Sigfred and awarding him the entire serpent-marked biography. Sigurd's enduring importance lies partly in that act of joining, because dynasties require remembered beginnings. Later authors supplied those beginnings through heroic ancestry, political marriage, and bodily wonder. The earliest records permit a ruler behind the story, but they do not identify his eye, parents, wife, or descendants. Sigurd Snake-in-the-Eye therefore marks the exact point where a historical name may continue while a saga dynasty unmistakably begins.